This is Bottom Feeder Cinema. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, not the bottom. Okay. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chris.
And this is Bottom Feeder Cinema. Today we're going to talk about The Tomb from 1986 by director Fred Olen Ray. Surprisingly, this guy actually seems to have directed over 100 films.
Which the titles all indicate that they're softcore porn. Well, most of them.
We did a little digging.
Yeah.
They are actually softcore porn.
Softcore porn.
So I guess that kind of speaks to the caliber of his work. It says he specifically does grindhouse kind of B-movie type stuff. I guess he's going for quantity over quality.
Yes, definitely.
So just to give kind of a brief synopsis of this movie, it's basically about two grave robbers. Well, I guess technically focuses on one grave robber named John Banning, who loots the Egyptian tomb of a lost pharaoh's daughter named Nephratis, who also happens to be a vampire, and then goes back to L.A., and she takes a plane to LAX and terrorizes everybody and kills basically like everybody associated with these artifacts.
Yes. So,
Chris, do you want to open up how this movie starts?
The movie starts out with it's like a semi-chase scene. There's a Jeep tearing across the desert, like romping off hills and stuff. And a small plane, like a Cessna, flies over top, like really close, and so you don't know if like the plane's chasing him or if he's following the plane or what. But it turns out he's driving to an airstrip for a meeting with some lady. I guess they're
doing a little trade of, I guess, artifacts. So dude gets out of this Jeep, and he looks like a 45-year-old Zac Efron.
And when he's in the Jeep during the chase scene, he has a very distinct 5 o'clock shadow, which disappears the moment he steps out of the Jeep.
The wind against his face just, I guess, tears it off as he's driving.
That wind is
it
brutal.
It files down his stubble.
Yes.
So right off the bat, everybody's really quippy. It's just basically the entire dialogue between this guy and then the woman who gets out of the plane, who looks kind of like a off-duty clown with this like huge permed hair and
a ginormous camel toe. That's
and
very, very
her mom
noticeable.
jeans pulled up tight with a camel toe.
Yeah.
And it's just like one-liner after one-liner in their entire dialogue, and then they start making out.
Yeah, they start weirdly making out for some reason.
Like they have a history or something.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'll go ahead and say it now. This woman never makes an appearance again in the entire movie and has no bearing on anything.
And they never talk about the history that they had before.
Never.
They just start randomly making out.
So, like, 6 Middle Eastern dudes pop out from behind her, like, 2-seater plane.
Yeah, they don't climb out of the plane. They
come from behind it, like it's a clown car or something.
Yeah.
And
they get in a shootout.
Pull guns.
Yeah.
And this Pauly Shore-looking guy gets out of the back of Efron, or John Banning, his Jeep, who has some sort of like semi-automatic weapon, and
they realized that she was going to steal whatever this drop-off was.
Right.
She was just going to steal it and not pay him for it. So, of course, that pisses him off. And Banning pulls out his gun and puts it to the lady's head.
She kicks him in the thigh.
Yeah, like it looks like a stunt scene where it's supposed to look like she's kneeing him in the groin, but she hits him in the inner thigh.
Totally incapacitates him.
Yeah, and he just drops.
So everybody starts shooting. The Middle Eastern dudes are lighting up Pauly Shore. He takes apparently a few of them out, just shooting randomly.
Yeah, and he's just spraying from the hip. He's not aiming at all. He's just shooting from the hip and just spraying bullets everywhere.
So Banning, with his revolver, takes one shot at the plane, and the entire thing bursts into an exploding inferno of destruction
from one shot from a handgun.
Just bam, and it's out. So he gets in the Jeep, and they start taking off, and the chick starts throwing grenades at them.
She's pulling grenades off her belt.
Rapid succession.
Yeah.
And
they look like landmines going off as he's driving away.
And they get away, and that's it. So then it cuts to the face of a singer in a cantina-type band.
Yeah, it's like some weird bar.
Who's wearing like a blue and gold striped pharaoh headdress thing, and it looks like it's made out of cardboard.
It's very cheap looking.
And she's got backup dancers dressed like mummies. And the song, of all the songs in the world they could play, they're playing Tutti Frutti.
And I like how it's the lead singer. She's singing, but she doesn't have a microphone.
She has no microphone.
The two backup singers who are right next to her have microphones in front of them. So there's two microphones really close to each other, and then she doesn't have a microphone, so it's just a mess of all their voices together.
I know Tutti Frutti's an old song, so maybe it's public domain. Maybe that's why they took it. Because that's the only distinguishable song in this movie. Everything else is just obscure, possibly just made up songs. So they're singing this, and this is where they start showing the credits to the movie and everything. And a dude serves on a platter Miller High Life to Banning, who's sitting at this table. And as he serves it to him, the name of one of the actors or something like follows on the tray.
It looks like he's serving the name on the tray.
It's really cool, and I haven't seen that except in really modern movies. So they're kind of ahead of their time in that. But aside from that, everything else in this movie is shit. But I really liked when he served that name on the platter, and then it just is downhill completely the rest of the way.
The one redeeming feature of the whole movie was in the credits.
So the Pauly Shore partner guy shows up with this Egyptian dude. That's
He's supposed to be Egyptian, but he looks Caucasian.
He's supposed to give them some kind of tip about this tomb that he found, and immediately Banning calls him a towel head.
A bloody towel head.
I mean, it's like, you're going to provide us really important information that's going to make us rich, and I'm going to call you a towel head. Like, nice to meet you.
And the sidekick starts giving Banning a hard time about he's been looking all over him, or all over for him for a while. And Banning says, well, I wasn't there. And the sidekick goes, where? And Banning says, where you were looking. So that's the caliber of jokes in this movie.
And then they make a reference, as this dude's telling him about the tomb. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a joke or just ignorance of the director, or I don't know. But they start referring to themselves as amateur gynecologists
rather than amateur archaeologists.
Yeah, and it's not delivered in like a sarcastic, like wink wink way or anything. It's just delivered like we are gynecologists.
And that's where I thought that this movie was going to take the road to softcore Pornville. Because he calls themselves gynecologists, and you're thinking, yeah, it means that there's going to be lots of nudity. And
yeah, like they're looking for women or something. Like, I thought he was alluding to, hey, can you hook us up with some loose Egyptian women or
even
something?
Even if they're dead mummy women.
Yeah, but no, they just apparently are stupid. Or making some kind of joke. I don't know.
They never explain the joke, or they never set the joke up. Not that it needs explaining, but they never set the joke up.
So the dude takes them past a bunch of stock footage of Egypt, the pyramids of Giza, the Sphinx, guy riding by on a camel, and then it cuts to the actual actors, and they're clearly in like Southern California. I don't know where they film. It looks like SoCal.
Yeah, there's lots of vegetation.
Suddenly really lush.
Yeah, and it's hills, and there's vegetation, and the boulders that look like in Southern California.
And the grand tomb in the deep valley that he's talking about is like two boulders leaning against each other with a crack in the middle. And
he walks up to it and goes, hey, here's the entrance to the tomb.
Yeah, they just waltz on in. And they go inside, and it looks like an English, like, Middle Ages dungeon or something.
Yeah, because the tomb is like stacked stone walls and everything with mortar. It's not like rock walls or anything. It's just stacked stone, and there's metal doors and stuff.
Yeah, they lift up a metal portcullis to get into this place, which I'm pretty sure did not exist in any Egyptian tombs. And they go into what is effectively one room that is empty with a cat statue and then a sarcophagus
leaning
standing upright against a wall. So they go to the cat statue, and Banning is convinced that it is a gold statue that is covered in plaster or enamel.
Enamel, yes.
As he says. And so he takes a pocket knife and chips away part of it and finds out it's not gold underneath. And he delivers the single best line in this movie. He says, there isn't enough gold in this pussy to fill a cavity, which is probably the single best written line in the whole movie. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed that.
There's also windows in this tomb with obvious skylight coming in them.
An underground tomb with windows.
With windows. Yeah, it's windows on the walls. It's not like skylights. There's windows on the wall that have bars over them. So it looks like they used the set from a movie that took place in like old English times, and just decided that, hey, we'll make it
close enough. We'll
tomb.
Slap a sarcophagus in there. No one will know the difference.
Yes.
So they're all pissed off that there's only little tiny trinkets in here. So Banning gives the bag or whatever to the Pauly Shore looking guy, and it's like, here, you deal with this. And he waltzes out of there. He's like, something about the camels.
Yeah, he said he's going to pull the camels as close as he can to the entrance, like they're trucks that he has to back up to the door so they can load this stuff in. He says, I'm going to pull the camels close.
So then Pauly Shore explains to Banning that he does not trust this Yosef guy that's their tour guide, and then proceeds to tell Yosef to go get all the valuable trinkets for them after just saying that he does not trust him at all.
Yeah, and he says that he wants to kill Yosef, and he makes some crack about killing the Arab, and
more with the racial slurs.
Yes, and he just says he's going to kill the Arab.
This Yosef guy is Mr. Backstory because nothing's been explained up to this point. So he tells them, oh, this should be the tomb of the illegitimate daughter of the pharaoh, and her name is Nephratis, and she's a vampire, and yada yada, and just
the pharaoh had her killed because he was terrified by the stuff she did.
Yeah. So they leave the room. She, of course, climbs out of this thing, and she's all like cracked out. She climbs out and kills Yosef in a really terrible first-person kill cam.
All you see is Yosef like cowering, and it looks like he's hissing like a cat, but he's like cowering, and then it cuts to the Pauly Shore sidekick,
who also gets. Well, he doesn't get killed directly. He turns into like a zombie vampire thing that's facing in the corner.
Yeah, that's weird because he's standing there in the corner. Well, he walks back in the room and sees the sarcophagus open, and starts looking around and comes across the mummy, who isn't wrapped up like a mummy. She's wearing like a white gown and has a face that has like, it looks like bad acne almost, or
yeah, like boils or something.
And she has vampire teeth, and she like, I guess you figure she bites him. So he's just standing in the corner when Banning walks back in.
Long story short, Banning grabs the loot, buddies die, and he just bails. And then, boom, cut to a strip club.
It cuts to a strip club, but it's not like the sign out front just says it's a bar. But then they go inside, and there's this lady dancing.
With huge tits.
Just shaking them all over, and the stupidest look on her face.
She's doing all these weird dances, and
just flopping her boobs around.
Yeah, like twirling them around. Yeah, they keep cutting to her about every 5 seconds, and she's doing something weird with her boobs at every point.
It's hilarious, though, because her face is... The expression on it is...
She looks delighted.
Yeah. And
she is delighted to be a stripper.
And she's like dressed like a cop, I guess, where she has the hat on. I say dressed loosely because she has a hat on and undergarments of some sort, but it's very, very small. And she's just flopping them around. She has like a gun in her hand and is just...
So Banning's sitting at the bar drinking his Miller High Life, which is a recurring theme in this movie. Miller High Life is everywhere.
It's like Miller High Life decided they wanted to put money into a commercial, but a very long commercial that was very terrible.
So two guys in suits show up and are like, hey, we're with the U.S. Customs Agency, and you're smuggling a lot of Egyptian goods. And so he smashes a bottle on one of their heads, of course.
On one of their heads, and the bartender also smashes a bottle.
The whole strip club, which comprises mostly of really odd people, like there's a 20-something-year-old businesswoman playing pool at a strip club.
Yes.
She looks like a business professional. And
yes.
They all just kind of join in. The businesswoman tries to like pull a wallet out of the guy's jacket.
And when he comes to, he just kind of like brushes her off and
she's
walks
like,
away.
Like I tried.
Like assault against federal agents isn't any big deal. They're just like, oh, we'll just walk away. Like,
so Banning flees through the streets of
in an
of
awesome
Hollywood,
outfit.
And
he's
wearing a purple floral silk shirt, and he's got these short shorts with the identical purple floral pattern, and they are so short that the shirt hangs lower than the shorts.
It's awesome.
It looks like he's wearing like an elderly woman's nightie running through the streets.
Streets.
There's this like straight up Scooby-Doo chase scene. They've got this 80s like boop, 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 like music playing, and
the chase ends up in a train yard where they're like the federal agents, the U.S. Customs agents, come running down this alleyway,